Hello, everyone. Can you type in the chat if you can hear me? It's not meant to start till 10, but maybe you can hear me. Yes, yes, yes. Hello, everyone. All right, I'm just gonna, oh, look at all those yeses. We can hear you, sweet. I hope everyone's got their microphones muted. It sounds so quiet here. I'm thinking everyone does have their microphone muted. Okay, so I'm just going to wait till 10 o'clock. Oh, there we go. Okay. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me for our live stream today. The first thing I want to apologize for is that there was only one session in October. My trip to the conference in North Carolina obviously confused me somewhat. I was sure that I had done an event on the 6th of October, but apparently my brain turned off. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a session next Sunday and the following Sunday. I will be going to Mexico to do the retreat after that, so there'll be a bit of a break in late November. So I'm going to do a session this week, next week, and the following week. The 24th may or may not work, which is the day before I go to Mexico, depending on what time I have to leave. So the time may change on that one, but I just want to assure you that I'm going to catch up on the error that I made. The other thing that I was told to tell you is that we do have one space that's become available for a female in a shared, in a 3-bed shared room in Mexico. Somebody canceled. And so we do have one space. Maybe it's for you. Maybe you've been feeling, oh, I should go to Mexico and get away from the weather that's changing. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there for all of you. And we are still working on moving all of my archive material onto our new platform, which will be launched on January 1st. So I will not be posting much more on YouTube. I'm going to dedicate myself to the Mighty Networks platform that all of my work is going to go on. All of the recordings I have available to me will be there, and we will be having videos, MP3s, so that you can just listen without watching, and we will also be doing transcripts, and I will be doing new events in the new year on there. I'm working on something, or Jesus is working on something in here that will be starting January 1st, but it will be on the new platform. It will not be on YouTube. So that's very exciting. A lot of work to get, I don't know, there'll be basically 1,000 pieces of information on that new platform once it's all settled. So enough of me. Let's see what Jesus has to say to us today. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And of course, we are pleased that you have managed to drag yourself here in this meat suit, is one of the words that is used. But we will call it your beloved body. Your beloved body is your device for learning. That is all it is. It is a device for learning. It is not your teacher. It is the vehicle through which you experience your beliefs and ideas, your values, your judgments, your discernments, your errors. And it is the visceral feedback system that you have given yourself to have this unique, pointed, 3-dimensional experience. So your body is valuable as a tool. It is not valuable for anything else. And this is where many of you get a little confused with the body, feeling that in and of itself, it is a valuable object. Your consciousness does not depend on the body. Your body depends on your consciousness for everything. So this week, we would like the focus to be your body and your relationship to the body and the messages and the form and shape, size and condition that it reflects back to you. Every one of you are having an intimate relationship with your body, and your feelings about your body are going to be very revealing about your mind. So the mistake that many of you make when you have a negative feeling about your body is that you blame your body. You say that my tummy's too fat, or my legs are too short, or my head is too bald, or my face is too wrinkled. And you think that the feeling is coming from your body, but it's not. It's coming from your judgment of the body, and it's coming from your misinterpretation of the body. Now, we're getting very specific here because we witness how very, very profound the programs in your society are about the body. And we see day after day, many of you struggling with the conditions of your body to the point where it is overriding many of the joys and experiences that this life could bring you. Many of you step back from activities because you think the body is not attractive enough or strong enough to deserve to be placed in public, let us say. What's happening in that circumstance is that you are getting a desire to do something, let us say go mountain climbing, or hitting the gym, or going to the pool, or going to the beach, or going to a dance. Spirit is nudging you to do something physical because you need to see the beliefs that you have about the body. So this is a paradoxical kind of experience you're having, where Spirit says you have some very negative beliefs and ideas about your body that you need to address to keep your frequency up. We're going to nudge you to go to a dance, or we're going to nudge you to go and buy some new trousers, or we're going to nudge you to join a gym. And what that nudge from Spirit, of course, does is it triggers within the ego mind the blocks, the limitations, the judgments, the fears, the misinterpretations that you've got going on that you attribute to the body. You do not necessarily attribute them to the mind. For example, if you have a body that is overweight, you will blame the body for how you're feeling, when in actual fact, how you're feeling is what's causing the weight on the body. So this is a classic case of projection going on with many of you here. So we want you to begin to flip that scenario around. Anytime you feel bad about the body or what it's capable of or incapable of, we want you to realize that the feeling bad is coming from your guidance system, which says you need to look at your body in a different way. You need to assess the situation in a different way. So, for example, if you are feeling achy and you know that you're not very strong, your muscle tone is not very good, you find yourself, we'll say, wimping out on walks, for example, where you might walk for 10 blocks and you'd really like to go for a hike in the woods for a long time, but you can't do it. We want you to understand that that desire for health is coming from Spirit that says, hey, we want to use your body for all kinds of really interesting experiences that you wanted to have while you're in this incarnation, but you haven't looked after your body. You've not been using it to the potential to which it can be used. We would like you to get to the gym, or we'd like you to get to the swimming pool, or we'd like you to push yourself a little bit more when you're out walking, not to harass yourself, not to torment yourself or punish yourself, but to get the most out of your physical experience. We want you to understand that there is a great desire for access to this realm. Even though it's the realm of separation, even though it's a very, very challenging place once you get born into a body, with all of the teachings that your society pushes upon you, there is a great desire to come into this particular form because it is full of potential. And that really is what all of you are seeking. You're seeking to reach your potential. What we want you to also understand, however, is that in concert with you seeking to reach your potential. And by potential, we mean the things that you'd like to have the opportunity to experience. We don't necessarily mean success in the way that you interpret it, coming from the Western way of looking at the world. Potential can always easily be interpreted as becoming bigger, better, richer, more famous, more successful, all of those things, having more possessions. When we say potential, we mean expanding your mind towards love, expanding out of your limits, expanding out and above your fears, expanding past the constrictions of conditioned teachings that you have kept with you from other incarnations. Now, you will hear disagreements on this particular idea of whether or not you come in with baggage, let us say. Well, we will say you do come in with tendencies, you do come in with issues that you want to work on, but from the moment you are incarnated into a physical form, choice begins, free will begins. And you will see this in small children. You will see how strong the will of a small child is. And if the parents are raised correctly, they will be paying attention to the will of the child. They will be paying attention to the fact that the child does not want to eat as much as they think the child should eat, for example. This is a big battle in your families when you're children. The parents having an unnatural program in their minds of what should be on a child's plate and how much in quantity they should eat. And this is where many of your body issues start. That's why we're talking about this. We would like all of you to understand that the natural way of eating is a sort of grazing eating format. That means that you get hungry and you start to look for food. In a natural environment, you would be either having a garden outside or a foraging patch, let us say, and in other seasons you would have stores of food that you would have put up from the abundant summer harvest. So you would go looking for food once you got hungry, and you would have a selection from which to choose. So in your pantry, you might have some nuts and seeds and grains. You might have some dried fruit. You might have some sauces that you have prepared. You might have some all kinds of different things in there. And in the garden, you might have seasonal fruits, seasonal vegetables that are ready. You might go out into your garden first thing in the morning when you're hungry in a more natural environment and see, oh, there's a half a dozen pea pods are ready, and you will pop those fresh peas into your mouth. Now, that's not something that the ordinary Western person would consider having for breakfast. But if you're living in a more natural environment and have planted food and you have done your best to produce some kind of nutrition for yourself in your backyard or on your deck or in your communal gardens. Not everybody has access to their own gardens, but there are communal gardens popping up. Then you might have half a dozen fresh peas and 3 kale leaves for breakfast, because that's what you fancy and that's what looks tasty to your mind as you wander out hungry into your garden. Now you can see that that premise or that system of eating is going to be very different than the ones that most of you grew up with and the ones that most of you have been programmed into having. So we're approaching this subject in this way because we would like you over the next week or so, this can be a practice that you can continue over many, many weeks and months. Now, you're in the Northern Hemisphere, of course, you're going into the winter season, but we would like you to pay attention to how you feel in the morning when you get up. We would like you to pay attention to when you get hungry. Now, if you've had a big meal the night before, generally speaking, you're hungrier. When you have eaten sparingly the night before, the body goes into a different kind of management of energy, and you may find that you do not get hungry until 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. We would like you to start your day with 1 or 2 fresh glasses of water. If you are on a city system that has fluoride and chlorine in it, we really want to emphasize that these are highly toxic substances that do detrimental things to your body-mind. And so we would like you, to the best of your ability, to employ a filtration system of some kind. If you do not have very much money and you're renting, let's say, then you can get one of those jugs that has a filter system. Get the best quality that you can afford, because water is your greatest companion on this journey. You are just like a battery. You are, for you to function at peak capacity, for your body systems to function at peak capacity, water, clean, clear water, has to be a priority. So if you are a residential, if you own a house, you own your house perhaps, we would suggest that if you are not on some kind of spring water system or deep well system where you have access to clean, uncontaminated water, of course, this requires some testing if you are living in an agricultural environment even, because there's a lot of runoff of chemicals from farming. If your water tests clean and pure, then wonderful. If it does not test clean and pure, then we would suggest one of these jug systems, or we would suggest a reverse osmosis system that you can attach to your tap. Yes, these things cost money, and we understand that, but all of you spend money all of the time on the things you value. So we would like you to reassess the budgeting system you have and ask yourself, is this fundamental quality of water that we are being told is important as we are being told? Then perhaps I need to invest some money in filtering the system that I have so that it's as clean and pure as possible. So we could not say drink 2 glasses of clean, clear water in the morning if we do not have that little sidebar for you to make sure that you understand that tap water is not good for you. Now, we are speaking here in physiological terms because many of you are not masters yet. Many of you are consuming a lot of foods and drinks that have a lot of ingredients in them that are unnecessary. So the project for this week is beginning the day with fresh, clean water and addressing the water contamination issue that you may be facing in your home. What we're going to be doing over the next few sessions is we are going to be honing in on some subjects that we want you to focus on. So last month, we focused in on the money situation, and we see some great effects taking place through that focusing process. So this week, it is about water. It is about drinking clean water, cleaning up the water that you access. It is about buying water in glass bottles if you buy water. This is something that's very tricky for many of you because of the plastic contamination in your society. But what's happening as we observe humanity's relationship with their bodies is that we see these contaminants, such as chlorine, such as fluoride, and a host of other unpleasant things that are making its way into your bodies through the water system, are damping down the brain's physical capacity to transform information. So as Course in Miracles students, it is important for you to come at your practice from both sides. That is not obsessing about the body or the health of the body, but paying attention to the basics of consuming healthy contributors to the manufacture of your cellular structure. Now, your mind is capable of overriding so much of this physical material world. But in the frequencies that most of you find yourselves in at this stage of your modern Western society, the contamination that has already taken place and will continue to take place unless it is addressed is an issue. Now, in older documents, in older testaments, in older testimony, many of these things were not addressed because in ancient societies, in medieval societies, in life on earth when I was incarnated in my last physical form, this kind of contamination was irrelevant. It was absolutely irrelevant, but it is not irrelevant anymore. All of you are beginning to hear more and more and more about the contamination of your food supply and your water supply and your medical supplies, these sorts of things. So we want to address it today so that you understand that it is important for you. This is one project for you to do this week. Your body, as a demonstration of separation, is going to be where a lot of your battles take place, because your concept of self is that your body makes you who you are, that your body is the one that is in charge of everything. Your body is the thing that goes wrong randomly. Your body is the thing that will die. So the body, as your great albatross around your neck, is a very, very important issue, and we want to address it this week. So begin to tell yourself that your body is a communication device for God. Begin to treat it as such. If God said to you, and God is saying to you, I would like you to use your body to communicate truth and love to everything and everyone you meet, will you take on that assignment? But to take on that assignment, you must treat your body as a sacred object, not because it brings you anything in particular, but because you are using it for sacred purposes. Are you willing to do that? And this is what is being asked of you. Are you willing to use your body and treat your body as a sacred communication device for love? And are you willing to contribute to your body's health, wealth, life, vitality to the greatest of your ability so that you may perform that task to the best of your ability? That is what we are going to plant as a seed in your mind this week. Our dear one has had a tremendous amount of trouble with her body-mind, almost to the point of death at times. And what we have experienced through her is a great understanding of the programs and problems that this society's propaganda implants in your mind. And so it does not matter if you're young or old, fat or thin, male or female, your relationship to your body needs to be addressed in a way that is loving, that is forgiving, and that is kind. And so this week, we would like you to say to your body, I apologize for anything that I've done to you that has caused you pain, that has caused you to function improperly. And from this day forth, I'm going to do better. I am going to stop before I put anything into you, whatever form that takes. I'm going to stop before I put anything into you and ask, is this in alignment with your sacred purpose as a communication device for God? If it is not, reassess and change what you are going to put in it. Be honest with yourselves. Be clear about what your purpose is. The unification of your body's purpose now is not to get things for you. It's not to lure lovers in. It's not to make money for you. It is to become a divine communication device for God. And if you focus on that purpose for your body, much of the suffering that you feel will pass, because you have assigned to your body tasks that are incorrect, that are unholy, and that are going to hurt you. We will return shortly. Wow. Okay, that was intense. Hang on a second, I have to plug you in here so that I don't run out of juice. Let me just have a little sip of my non-polluting drink. I have been drinking lemon and ginger this week, and oh my goodness, I am enjoying it so much. I make a big pot of it on the stove and drink it throughout the day, and I find that I just am drinking a lot more fluid that's good for me. So give that a try. Okay. First question. Being on holiday empties your brain, so as a result, more questions come up. In fact, it's about the brain. What is it good for? If we can communicate with each other telepathically with our fellow Earth inhabitants, our extraterrestrial friends, and all living species, I do not have a clue if they even exist. What is the brain for then? If an ant can communicate with us, an insect so tiny, and has even way more wisdom and connection with source than we have, what then is the brain for? Knowledge isn't stored in the brain. We don't have to learn anything. We can tap into every knowledge we want because it's all stored and waiting for us to tap into. Does the size of the brain make any difference? Is the brain a blocking device? Our bodies are antennas made to send and receive. Is our brain the great disguiser? Very good question. See what Ananda has to say. We're with you again, dear ones. As usual, we say thank you for coming here today. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing. Thank you for communing with us. Thank you for expanding your minds. Thank you for challenging yourselves. Thank you for loving yourselves more. We feel you. We are with all of you often. And we want to let you know that the capacity for love within this group is expanding rapidly. So pat yourselves on the back for that. Even those of you that are having trouble are applying these teachings and these techniques and your forgiveness to what you are going through. You are truly beginning to realize that when you feel bad, you are off track and something needs to be addressed. But what we are seeing amongst this group is that when things go awry and you get angry or you get frightened or you get overwhelmed, you are beginning to see that it is a temporary situation manufactured within your own consciousness by something that you are incorrectly interpreting. And you are therefore coming with an inquiring mind to that behavior. And this is exactly how negative feelings, expressions, emotions should be addressed. They should be addressed as an opportunity for expansion. And this is one of the emphases that we would like to make today. Do not beat yourself up when you go off the rails and rail at somebody or get upset or feel bad, but go inside and say, what am I doing with my mind in this moment? What am I judging? What am I putting up with that I don't want to put up with? What am I settling for? One of the difficult things in your society with the training programs you have is that you have been taught that love sacrifices, that love suffers, that love is painful. And so you may very well be getting feedback to change something, to expand yourself, to try something new, to begin a new project. but you are editing yourself back into submission, so to speak, because that's how you've been trained. That's what your schooling system's training you to do. You have this vital life force. You want to run and climb up a tree, and your teacher says, sit in a chair, or you will get in trouble. Do you not understand how crippling your education system is? Yes, we will get to the brain, but it does relate to this particular topic. Your brain is the intermediary device between the physical material separation experience that you have chosen to have, because you have got a body, you wanted to come into separation, and the non-physical. So the questioner is saying, well, we can commune telepathically with each other. That is the non-physical aspect of you working. And yet you have, with all of your desire, chosen to come into separation. And so you have a physical body, mind. We will say a physical body, physical structures in your body that represent your separation. And so the brain is a beautiful demonstration of that separation, because it's got a left and right hemisphere. It shows you that you have a split mind. So one part of the brain is communicating spiritual principles. Another part of your brain is communicating conditioned principles. So it's a very, very beautiful demonstration of what you are struggling with. All of you are struggling with the split mind. I am a body, I am a spirit. This is one of the great splits that you have to come to understand and come to master. So your brain is not your enemy. It is merely a demonstration of separation, just as your body is a demonstration of separation. And it does not mean that you hate it. It means that it is giving to you what you want. Now, as you are going through these lessons, what more and more of you are coming to see is that separation is not what you want. So you begin to act differently because your beliefs about separation and oneness are changing. Remember, your behaviors come from what you believe to be true about reality. So if you believe in sin, and that there is evil afoot and that the body is sinful, then it will take on that role for you. And the mind will take on that role. The functioning of the mind will take on that role for you. You will be much more likely to be following the conditioned aspect of your consciousness rather than the freedom-seeking, creative, loving aspect of your consciousness that's being tuned into by, we will say, the more evolved aspects of your brain. The physical body, the physical world, remember, your life, everything in the world is symbolic of an aspect of consciousness. So your body is symbolic of the aspect of consciousness that is seeking separation and believes in separation. And that is why the body will get sickened and seem to die, because of the belief in separation. And this is why the body will become much more long-lived and healthy when your mind is more focused on the creative, loving, eternal aspects of your consciousness. So for those of you that have concerns about your body, focus less on the body and more on the eternal, the non-physical, the creative, the positive aspects of life. It seems as if the focus on water, for example, is too physical, but water represents the basic flow of life on your planet. That is why when you see a landscape that has no water, it is not alive. So in terms of the symbolic representation of water, it is the water of life. You need it. You can't go very long without it. So do not resent your brain, but begin to look at it accurately as a demonstration of your split mind, and choose the loving, kind, creative, vital side of your thoughts. We want you to understand that the monkey mind that many of you live with, the discursive mind, the constantly thinking about every single little thing mind, is what clouds your connection to spirit. And this is why, of course, training the mind and meditation is beneficial. However, we do want to mention here that the active use of your free will to forgive is more powerful than meditation alone. Obviously, the lessons of A Course in Miracles are training you towards a practice of meditation throughout the day, going inside, reciting certain mantras or certain prayers, paying attention to what's going on inside. That is meditation. But we are training you to do it while you're out and about doing your life. And of course, that's the best way to meditate. It's great to sit down for a focused portion of time if you can do that. And that, of course, is what the morning and evening practices do. But we want you to be meditating in your car. We want you to be meditating when you're doing dishes. We want you to be meditating when you're in the garden, focusing on that which is loving, that which is eternal, that which is beneficent for all beings. We will return shortly. All right. Brain. Whew. Okay, I am a student of A Course in Miracles, and since I've started, certainly some miraculous events have occurred, especially the happiness brought through the peace of living in the holy now. However, I have a question. During this time, I have had 3 events occur that I struggled and am still struggling with. I'm still struggling with one of these events, but making progress. In the past, I would have lashed out, etc. Is it possible that these 3 events, 2 are forgiven and behind me now, were placed into my life as a test or a practice exercise by the author of A Course in Miracles? I have never experienced anything like these 3 events, so they are not old patterns repeating. Any thoughts would be most appreciated. And that question is from Margie. Let's see what Jesus has to say. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. And as we have mentioned before, whatever you have not dealt with is going to come up at this time because of the galactic speed up that you are experiencing and because of the end of season. So we have mentioned before that the end of season is the end of a very long season in terms of your time, thousands of years. So for some of you, what's coming up are deeply embedded resistances, judgments, fears that you would consider come from another time and place, perhaps another incarnation. Remember, though, that lifetimes are not linear in that sense, the way that you've been taught. So other simultaneous lives, parallel lives, alternative lives can come through into your consciousness. Now, you're not aware of it, but your experience, your life, your dreams, your work, what you're eating for dinner, the art piece you're working on, will also be bleeding through into those other incarnations. So you may be a character in a dream that one of your other incarnations is having. You may be thinking about cooking something for dinner, and the being in another incarnation that is part of your oversoul will fancy the same thing for dinner. They have no idea where it's coming from, just as you have no idea where a lot of your things are coming from. So we don't want you to look at this in a linear way. We would like you to accept that something has come up for you to look at, and it's beneficent. Problems, as we have said ad nauseum, are opportunities for you to expand your consciousness. And if you think about it, if you have been doing a lot of Course in Miracles work, doing your forgiveness practice, challenging your comfort zone and your control zone, expanding into new realms of experience, you may very well be getting to a point where you are mastering your current incarnation. You are getting a handle on things. And so what will your consciousness then seek as a form of expansion? Oh, it may decide that it's going to have a completely new experience because it's time now, because you have dealt with so much of the old experience. This is what often happens as you are studying A Course in Miracles. In the first few years, it feels like you have got these relentless programs running and running, spiraling around. You think you've dealt with something, and lo and behold, it comes back again, and it comes back again, and you feel at times as if this is never going to be over. But once you have dealt with enough of your past, cleaned up enough of your resentments, cleaned up enough of your incorrect beliefs and ideas, and you're coming into a place of clarity, you're coming into a place of peace, you're coming into a place of, oh, I'm really feeling like I'm getting a handle on this, that the problems that you're encountering in your life no longer throw you down a rabbit hole for 3 days. Your anger or your resentments only hang around for a little while you process them and go deep and inquire into what it's bringing up in you. Once you get to that place, then you get to the fun part. You get to the fun part of your incarnation where you get to have new experiences that you've never had before. Our dear being is in that stage of her life right now where she is expanding into realms that she never thought she would expand into. And often this takes place in the physical world first as an experience, so that the mind can have a new recipe, let's say. So it's like you've been using your mother's old recipe cookbook for your whole life, and it's got sticky jam fingerprints on the favorite pages, and it's worn out and it's hard to read, where you've done the same recipe over and over and over again. And lo and behold, someone gives you a new recipe book and you think, oh my goodness, look at this recipe. I've never even eaten anything like this before. Mum never used to cook this. And you put the old recipe book away and you begin new recipes. But what does that mean? What does that mean when you get a new recipe book? You open your cupboards and you think, I don't have tarragon in here. I don't have sun-dried tomatoes in here. I don't have the ingredients that I need for this new experience. So you have to go to the store and you go with your long list of all the things you need for your new recipes. Well, that's what your experience is like on the earth plane. If you have evolved to such a point that now it's time for the new recipe book because the old family recipe book has been used up and dealt with, that would be your forgiveness practice with your family. This would be old resentments. This would be bad habits. This would be habitual ways of thinking that are limiting you. Once you've clarified that part of your life, then the new cookbook can come in, and what a thing to look forward to that is. So our dear one is trying all kinds of new recipes now. And yes, it requires her to go shopping for some things once in a while. Yes, it requires her to step out of her comfort zone frequently. But she knows the recipes in that new book are delicious, they're exciting, they're fun, they're tasty. And so we encourage all of you to look at your forgiveness work and the trudging through Mother's Cookbook, your old forgiveness practice, your family traditions, these kinds of things you've never questioned before. When you feel resistance, oh my God, this is so much work, I can't keep going, we want you to think about the new cookbook that you will get if you deal with the old stuff and get rid of it and transform it into loving stuff. And that's really what happened in this situation with the question asker, is some new recipes came through, and the experiences that these new opportunities gave her now have added new ingredients like courage, determination, patience, inquiry, intelligence, discernment, all of these things. When you're functioning from the old patterns, things like discernment and inquiry and patience are often not at play. They're the sign that you are beginning to evolve out of the past and into the eternal now, where, of course, your future is created. We will return shortly. All right. Whew. Okay, let me just have a sip. Chat amongst yourselves. What about modern day masters, etc., that have suffered strokes? So many questions about healing abilities, etc. Okay. Seeing as I read that question, I'm going to see what Ananda says about someone like a modern day master like Ram Dass having a stroke. What does that mean? Oh, we're with you again, dear ones. We want you to understand that highly evolved beings tend to be much less judgmental about what lower frequency beings would consider a negative experience. You also have in your blueprint the opportunity, should you take it, to assign yourself very challenging tasks throughout your life to enhance your consciousness expansion. Now, in the ego mind, where most of you are functioning right now, that's fine. We're not judging it. We're just saying the value system that most of you are functioning from, you are in your egos, you are in your bodies, you see yourself as individuals, la, la, la. So you are in separation, you believe in death, and most of you will seem to die this lifetime. That frequency does not allow you to access the higher frequencies that some of these decisions are made in. So when some of these teacher beings come into this incarnation, they have assigned themselves difficult tasks. Some of them will be in the form of physical challenges. Some of them will be in the form of betrayals or business dysfunction, financial bankruptcy, these sorts of things. Because some of these very, very big challenges teach you so much that they, should they reach a certain capacity in their incarnation, will be able to manage the very difficult lesson that that particular experience is going to bring. There are beings who, in their pre-life blueprint, will assign themselves tremendously difficult tasks like a crippling car accident, because they want to experience a different kind of experience other than the full body health, being able to do what they want whenever they want to do it. That's one kind of experience, but spirit values all kinds of experience. And this is important when you are judging somebody else's life, when you are judging somebody else's behavior, when you are judging somebody else's choices. You do not know what their guidance system is telling them to do. You do not know what they have assigned themselves in this lifetime. So it's very important for you to understand that not all quote unquote limiting experiences are bad. Not all quote unquote physical challenges are bad. There are beings who are in what you would consider quite limited physical bodies, quite limited mental bodies, that are having a particular experience because that is part of their evolutionary journey. And it's also part of the evolutionary journey of the beings around them who have to deal with the issues that that particular manifestation brings up and brings forth. So we would like all of you in this kind of circumstance, when you see something happening to somebody that you would consider a teacher, a master perhaps, first of all, You don't know what their internal world is like. They may be very good at appearing to be a master teacher, when in fact inside there is great turmoil, there's fear, there's shame. You don't know. You will see snips of them on movies or TV and you will think, oh, they know everything. Well, we will tell you they don't know everything necessarily. So their physical demise or their physical challenges could be a result of a very, very low frequency aspect of their mind that is manifesting in the body. A lot of people who are famous are very unhappy, not because fame makes you unhappy, but because it emphasizes and magnifies everything that you're experiencing. Just as money coming to you, a lot of money coming to you will magnify whatever areas of your life you're dysfunctional in. So if you've got a slight drinking problem, but your finances keep you sober half the time and you get a big wad of money coming your way, then watch out. You may be hitting the bottle pretty hard for a little while before you realize, oh, my problem drinking was kept in check by a lack of money. I really need to address this now because clearly it has gotten out of control. So the first thing is, don't judge others who are teachers as perfect. This idea of falling off the pedestal is something that's very big in your society. Do not worship individuals, but follow their example if their example is good. Follow their teachings if their teachings improve your life. But understand that they too are on a human journey. The other thing is, of course, that different people have different assignments that they have at times given themselves and at times have been assigned to them, because they have made particular choices over and over and over again in other incarnations. And it's clear that unless their hand is forced a little bit, they will not address something. They've been given lots of opportunities to address it, and they have chosen not to. And so at times, an assignment is given to somebody that says, look, you've had all of these lifetimes to address this particular issue. You haven't done it. And so we are going to, quote unquote, impose some particular circumstance upon you that will force you to address this issue. This is another reason why it's very, very good to proactively deal with the things that you don't like dealing with, so that you don't get given an assignment that you don't want. Now that might frighten the ego, but we want you to understand that your free will is always at play. We cannot tell you to do anything. All we can do is point you the way, give you lots of signposts and encouragement, and say, this is where you're going to find your happiness. This is where you're going to find your health. This is where you're going to find expansion. But you are the one who's making the decisions always. Are you listening to the signposts? Are you following the guidance? Or are you going, well, I can't afford it. I'm too scared. I can't do it. My mother won't be happy. My husband won't like me. My wife will yell at me if I do that. Those are free will choices to not listen to the directional stream of consciousness that we are encouraging you to follow. So there are many, many facets at play here. What we would like you to focus on, each one of you, is your guidance system, your feelings of limitation or fear, your challenges, your opportunities. Keep focusing on expanding and healing and loving yourself, and that will lead to the expansion of your life, the expansion of your contacts, the expansion and well-being of your community, because you will be then manufacturing from your healed frequency rather than from your wounded, separated, fearful frequency. We will return shortly. All right. Okay, I'm gonna have a little throat rest here. I have a subject I would like to hear Jesus and Ananda speak about: land ownership and social organization. The idea that we can own parts of Gaia seems absurd to me. Also, the idea that we can prohibit someone to go, be, or live somewhere. Jesus and Ananda have earlier said that everyone has the right to live where they want, and not only private land ownership, but that by states. Our societies are organized along geographical lines. Yet I do see the need for some man-made rules for us people to live by. We do need to organize ourselves somehow. I'm curious about other ways to do that. How do the beings in our galaxy do it? How do those in that confederation do it? And how do they decide which their leaders are? Are they democracies? If this topic has already been covered, I would love for someone to point me in the right direction. Okay, thank you. It's a good subject. Yogesh will know if we've addressed it before, but let's see what Jesus has to say. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus. The systems that have been developed, we will say relatively recently in your society, and by that we mean in the last few hundred years, have indeed been developed by the rich to protect the rich. You will notice that to buy a piece of land, you have to be pretty rich these days. There are people who are ordinary employees working, a job here and a job there, and they have no way of saving enough money to get a down payment to buy their own house. And so those with money, for whatever reason, or those with power, for whatever reason, will be owning the homes those people live in. Those people will be buying the homes or paying the mortgages of the owners of those homes. And the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. And that is something that you are seeing magnified in these times to a tremendous degree. You call it the 1%. Well, it is a slow and steady orchestration that has happened through the implementation of fear, control, shame, restriction, punishment, death, law. What you have within you is access to natural laws. You have access to the desire to help. You have access to the desire to love. You have access to the desire to share. But these things are indoctrinated out of you through the systems that have been given authority over your children. Now, this is something that's a big part of the changes that are going to come to your society. The regulations, the restrictions, the limitations that are being increasingly implemented as a power grab to maintain control and to maintain wealth and to maintain the acquisition of wealth are getting increased to such a degree that the ordinary person is beginning to become annoyed with them. This is a very, very exciting time in your society. This is a very, very exciting time where the desire for freedom is beginning to arise. The desire for fairness is beginning to arise. The acknowledgement that there is a very, very strange power structure on your planet that does not listen to the people's wants and needs, but keeps consuming and charging through and destroying natural resources, raping and pillaging the land, if you will, to a greater and greater degree. It's almost as if the beings who are in charge of this planet do not care for you or the planet. They do not. So how is this remedied? Well, this is remedied by you becoming more empowered. The systems that have been implemented, such as universal education, you'll see, what do schools look like? Somebody has come on with their microphone on. Please mute your microphone if you have just come on to the system. Thank you very much. What you will notice is that schools look like prisons. They are big buildings, they have chain link fences, they have controlled exit entrances and access points. this is part of the training program to desensitize you to being controlled. So the system has been in place long enough that most of you have become so desensitized to being controlled that you accept that it is a natural way of being. And you think, well, how could 7 billion people live on this planet without these kinds of controls? It would be chaos. That belief is coming from the chaos that you are witnessing now, thinking, well, people are behaving in a chaotic way. And they have all these laws and they have all these controls. My goodness, what would happen to them if they weren't controlled? But we tell you the chaotic behavior is coming because the controls have been imposed from without. The regulation and maintenance and understanding of your own guidance system has been overridden. And so there are no controls from within. There is no power from within. There are no assessments of what you should do from within. You are increasingly being taught that outside of you is the only place to go. And that is being indoctrinated in through these programs of legality, the tax system, the financial system, things like you cannot rent a hotel room in your society without a credit card now, but you cannot get a credit card unless you have a job. You cannot get a credit card unless you have a credit rating. You cannot. And so to even go on a holiday, you must conform to the external laws of your society. But they have reached a point where they are beginning to impinge upon free will in such a way that all of you are feeling it. And that is where this question is arising from. So what we would like all of you to do, if you are feeling the pinch of the 1% rules and laws and legalities, is we would like you to begin to entertain the idea that there is another way of doing this, that communities can come together and agree on how to manage the internal and external resources that that community has access to. But of course, this is going to require a re-education. Of course, that's what we are about here. We are re-educating you. We are giving you the opportunity to expand your minds into areas of self-regulation so that you are choosing more wisely how you live your life. And this is one of the reasons why, for example, we will say to you, grow some food for yourself, even if it's a small patch. But most of you will look outside and you will have a front garden or a back garden, or you will have a neighbor who has a front garden or a back garden, or you will have an empty lot in your city that you could start asking, can we have a communal garden there? Mostly they will say yes, but there has to be an impetus arising from within you that says, I am not satisfied with what I have. And that is what's happening around the planet because of the galactic speed up. Those of you that were satisfied with what you have, because it was taught what you were allowed to have is this much, you're allowed this much. And now we're telling you, oh, you can have this much. You can be healthy and wealthy and wise, and you can travel and you can expand your realms unbelievably. But that expansion must come from within you first. So the expansion that's coming from within you must be, how can I become more independent if this is an issue that's bothering you, the land ownership issue and the constraints? How can I become more independent even within the structures of my life that I am living in at the moment? Okay, well, if you're living in a suburban house, you can become more independent in several ways. You can become more independent by, for example, investing in some solar panels for your house. You can become more independent, for example, by buying a generator so that should the power go out, you have access to that which you need for a few days. You can become more independent by investing your money in things that make your life better now, that give you the opportunity to expand yourself. So it could be that instead of having money in the bank, which isn't there, we will say, if all of you go to get your money today, it's not there, it's been taken. So if you have quote unquote money in the bank, put it into tangible assets that will benefit you daily. So for example, if you have a back lawn that you curse mowing and that has got weeds in it and that is nothing but a troublesome thing, put in a dozen garden beds. Do it nicely, build beautiful wooden beds, bring some nice soil in, make some pretty paths, some nice benches, and make that a project of independence. That means that if the store is closed tomorrow, you can dig up some potatoes from your garden. That means if the bank is closed tomorrow, you can actually live for a little while. Another way of making yourself more independent is to make sure that you have a pantry of a selection of foods that will keep for a considerable amount of time. So dried foods, nuts, vacuum sealed foods, all of these things, not made with a feeling of fear, but with a feeling of excitement that you are just a little bit more independent. And that independence will make you feel stronger. It will make you feel taller. It will make you behave in a different way because you will be less precariously balanced on the house of cards that is your food and money supply system in this society, and your power supply system in this society. So there are many ways that you can begin to access more independence. That is your way of saying to the universe, I want more independence in my life. I don't want to be dependent on the system. You may not necessarily be given the solution to the whole system, but the whole system has functioned and continues to strengthen because all of you have been joining in the system, going, oh, okay, I can't do this, I can't do that, all right, I'll go over here, all right, well, I can't do that. And now many of you have been shepherded into a corral that you don't like, but each step of the way you were saying, okay, 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 okay. Now what we would like you to do is to say, let's get together and let's start dismantling the corral. If we get together, we can get that first rail off the corral. What is that? Oh, that's me talking to my neighbors about working in their garden, helping them in their garden, creating a relationship so that not everybody's mowing their lawn on Saturday morning and going to the store and buying poisonous food. This is a very, very basic way that you can become more independent, and you would not necessarily think, oh, that's going to begin to dissolve the system, but it is going to begin to dissolve the system because you are part of the system. And if you take yourself out of the system in incremental steps, then you are not feeding your powerful, powerful creative nature into the system. You are beginning to question the system. You are beginning to say, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. That feels better to me. That feels more like freedom. That feels more like expansion. That feels more like happiness. Yes, other beings have evolved to such a degree that they have egalitarian systems. How do leaders get chosen in those systems? Well, every society that is manifesting into separation, yes, the extraterrestrial beings who live in your time-space reality are also in bodies seemingly to be individuated, even though they are more communal in nature, although humans are very, very communal in nature. Everyone has a tendency, everyone has an asset, everyone has a God-given preference, everyone has skills, everyone has interests that are different than others, and everyone will be given the ability to rise or move sideways into whatever realm they find interesting. But in a wise-sized society, in an egalitarian society, in a kind society where resources are not being constantly filtered up out of the system, making everyone poor, relatively speaking, making a few rich, then all of that wealth, imagine if all of the wealth that humanity produces on this planet at this time was reinvested into the communities where that wealth was being generated. Imagine if all of that money that gets sent up to the 1% through the banking system, imagine if all of you invested all of your money into your communities and into your families and into your well-being. instead of saving it for a rainy day. We're not saying that you should not put aside some stores for the winter. It's the same idea as that. But if you actually look, some people have a tremendous amount of money invested in things that have nothing to do with improving their life. They just invest to get more and more money. Imagine if all that money was invested in gardening programs for your school children, if it was invested in developing alternative energy systems for each town, so that each town did not have to be on a centralized grid but could produce its own energy and was managed by those beings in the community that enjoyed managing those things. But that is a highly evolved way of being. The power that comes through the ego, or the desire for power that comes through the ego because of the way you're raised in the society. So you do see power-hungry people trying to take over towns. You do see power-hungry companies trying to destroy things. But if everybody begins to evolve their consciousnesses, as all of you are, by being very patient and coming to these lessons time after time, then the communities are going to be different. And each one of you are going to be activists in your own way. There is going to come a time when these teachings and these lessons that you are incorporating into your own body-mind systems are going to speak. And it may be one day that you are at a council meeting and you will stand up and say, I think we should try this. The old you may never have said that. It may never have had the courage. You may have been too insecure. You may have been too frightened what people will think about you. But as you go through these teachings, you become more and more confident. You become more and more strong. You become more and more aligned with truth. You start to reach the potential that you are designed to reach. And you stand up and say, that is unacceptable. That is not fair to the lower income people in our community. The lower income people in our community need our help. They do not need to be thrown out of our community. And you may be surprised that people around you will stand up and say, I agree, let's all get together and let's come up with a plan to help those who are struggling, rather than throwing them out of the park and judging them because they look different. Let us come up with some system of assistance. But that requires an evolved mind. So it's so important for all of you to understand that this internal evolution that you are all going through is the way to change the system, because the system has counted on you not being evolved. It has counted on you not being clear. It has counted on you not being sober. It has counted on you being entertained into oblivion so that you don't notice what it is doing to you. Notice what the system is doing to you and turn it off wherever you can. At whatever access point that system is getting to you, begin to turn it off and say, I'm not joining in this system anymore. I'm going to put my energies into the system that I am interested in. And it will come in the form of guidance. It will come in the form of inspiration. It will come in the form of, I'm going to dig my lawn up today and I'm going to put a garden in there and I'm going to have fun doing it. We will speak to you shortly. All right. Hang on. Okay. Whew, that was a good one. Okay, we have time for one more. All right, let me just have a sip. David Montanet, they were putting your little image into my head when they were talking about that. Could Jesus or Ananda, lay down, bug, there's a good girl. Delphi just came in to say hi. Lay down, good girl, lay down. Could Jesus or Ananda comment on the QAnon movement? Thank you. For those of you that don't know what Q is, or the QAnon movement is, it is a messaging, it is a person or group of people that are messaging on what's called It was called 8chan. It's now called 8kun, but it's a sort of alternative to like Facebook kind of thing. It's sort of we'll call it a dark web messaging board system. And it's anonymous. So what's been happening for 2 years is that there have been messages coming from Q. It's an anonymous messaging that have been predicting quite unusual things within the American government. For example, in the midterm elections, Q predicted exactly what the score would be, exactly to the exact number of seats, Democratic and Conservative. So Q has access to some very, very interesting information, either telepathically, intuitively, psychically, or through the government. Many people think that Q is a group of people working with and for President Trump to clean up what he calls the swamp. And so that it's a long-term strategy of giving information through non-mainstream media methodologies, because the mainstream media is owned by the 1%. So they're using this alternative messaging system to encourage people to continue their evolution, to encourage people to not give up, to encourage people to understand that there is work being done behind the scenes in the United States government that is different than what's playing out on the mainstream media stage. So anyway, that's it in a nutshell. So you can always go onto the internet if you don't know anything about the QAnon movement, and I think QAnon.pub is a place where they show you the messages from Q. Let's see what Jesus has to say about Q. You are blessed beings indeed. I am that one that you know as Jesus, and the revolution is afoot. There is a lot of behind the scenes activity going on that none of you will ever see. There is a lot of progress being made behind the scenes that a lot of you will never see, because you have come to rely on mainstream media news for what's going on in the world. And what's going on in the world is not what the mainstream media will show you. So, for example, many of the wars that you have on your planet are strategically designed to cause certain things to happen economically, to cause certain things to happen politically, and they are orchestrated. They are not accidental, let's say. They are not A is fighting B and a war starts out. It is A is fighting B, and C has decided that if they can get A and B to murder each other, then C can come in and take over the economy of A and B. That's a simplistic way of putting it, but that's what's going on your planet. The other thing that's happening on your planet, and this is observed by how things happen normally, and then suddenly you'll see an aberration in a normal occurrence. So for example, you will see political boundaries. You will see that there are countries, and each country is doing its own thing, and they seem to have their own government, and they seem to have their own laws, and they seem to have their own decision-making processes, and suddenly there will be an international system implemented where all of a sudden the countries don't seem to have a say. We will refer to your 5G communication systems as an example of this. 5G is going into countries all over the place, regardless of the governments, regardless of the political affiliations, regardless of what people want. This is a system that's being implemented from a global government. There is a global government, a global system of operation that has been working on your planet for quite some time. Even though it appears to be a conglomeration of individual nation states, it is in fact a global government that has been working towards further and further control of your planet. So this would be considered conspiracy theory by those that are following the mainstream systems. but we want you to look at those aberrations as evidence that something else is going on. We want you to look at the fact that war is never ending as the fact that there is something going on as it relates to war. If war was sporadic, if war was looking quite different in different places, if there was periods of peace, 7, 8, 10 years, and then another war broke out, you think, well, that could be explained. But war is relentless. War is endless. War is constantly shifting and moving money and making huge sums of money and killing huge numbers of people, because that benefits the global elite. The global elite are only there because everybody has been educated into passivity and powerlessness. They cannot be there without your acceptance. The drop in the bucket, if the drop in the bucket is powerful, it can affect the bucket. So let's say you put a drop of iodine in a bucket. The bucket of water will be completely changed by that one drop. You can be that one drop. And that is what QAnon is about. QAnon is a messaging system from within the gatherings of beings that are working towards freedom, that are working towards expansion, that are working towards clarification, albeit from a faulty place at times, a worldly place at times. But the intention behind the reclamation of your planet is a good one. And so we have a relative experience going on here where you see the relentless attacks on the current president of the United States, who plays the buffoon very, very well. And yet behind the scenes, there are strategies and long-term plans being played out that are in fact designed to benefit humanity. What the trouble is for those groups that have gathered together all around your planet, not just in the United States, but all around your planet, this revolution is afoot. The problem for these beings is communication, because the communication devices that you all use have been usurped, are being monitored, information's being collected. And so this particular messaging system is used because it is designed to be anonymous, and it is owned by somebody who is choosing to support freedom of speech, freedom of communication, without the harvesting, manipulation, control of the mainstream media system. So that is what's going on. It's a messaging system to get messages out without them being edited, without them being compromised, which is something that this planet needs indeed. Encouragement, letting people know that there are beings who are working their very hardest to assist this planet to break free of the dark net that has been cast around it. There are many, many different forms in which this revolution is taking place. This is one of the forms that we are using to deeply recondition the collective consciousness of your planet, and is going to continue to expand. It is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you are going to find more and more and more of you tuning into these lessons, tuning into this encouraging, mind transforming process. And that is very, very exciting, because that is the only way that your planet will recover itself, will recover its health, will recover. The truth is, your planet, should you all continue on the path that you're on until you've destroyed yourselves, it will survive. In 10,000 years, the planet itself will be back to a pristine state, and it can all start again. But what we are striving for at the end of this galactic season, this spiritual season, is a reclamation of your sovereignty, a reclamation of your mental and emotional sovereignty, and the understanding that the collective is the component of all of the parts. But you can be the drop that changes everything. You can be the powerful, positive influence that changes more than the ordinary drop. a being aligned with source is far, far more powerful than a being who is cowering in the corner in fear, believing all the rules and limitations that they have been indoctrinated into. So we encourage you to be courageous. We encourage you to grow in whatever way you feel moved to this week. We encourage you to share your love, your creativity, your vitality, your life to the best of your ability. We encourage you to be grateful and to appreciate everything you have rather than focusing on what you don't have. We are encouraging you to appreciate the opportunities your body gives you to experience this world. It is a valuable experience, even though you will evolve out of it. For now, it is what you need to have. And so we leave you with this encouraging monologue so that you know that you are working towards the good, you are working towards the great, you are working towards the evolution of your society. Even when you are sitting on your couch by yourself reading your Course in Miracles, you are doing great work, and we want to encourage all of you to continue on that great work until you see the reflection of it in your life, until you see the reflection of it in the relationships you have, until you see the reflection of it in the governments that are running your countries. We love you very much, and we are very pleased that you all came to this place and time today, and we will see you soon. All right. Okay, everyone, that's it for today. That's lovely. Thank you all for joining me today. I really appreciate it. So this was recorded. I will be transposing it to YouTube within the next 24 hours. And so you will receive an email with a link to the recording, and it will be added to the library on the website. So thank you all for coming. And once again, I will remind you, we do have one spot in Mexico for a female in a shared room. You can always contact Carol Morgan at assistant.channelingjesus@gmail.com if you're curious, or you can go to the website and contact her there. Thank you all. I love you all very much. Thank you. Bye.